Now, before we do this, let's go over the ground rules. Rule number 1. No touching of the hair or face.
Of course.
And that's it!
You play as a unicorn.
I see assholes like you every day.
Every fucking day. Think you gonna get away with it? Not up in here!
Not up in here!
The meatloaf!
Unfortunately, I think the amateur status of the company has come through, and they bit off more than they could chew.
And I feel totally embarrassed about that whole scenario.
Welcome to Game Theory. Join me, your host Souls, and my co-hosts, Tastes Like Chicken, HeyCarNut, and Lemon, as we discuss the latest gaming topics. Oh no. Oh no! I did it again.
Steve! Do something with this guy, please!
Hello guys, and welcome to the 12th edition of GameTheoryCast. Today we have a special guest, Chris from Ricochet, as the community manager. We also have TL Chicken, HeyCarNut, and myself, Souls. Hey, how's it going, everyone?
How's it going, man? Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Hello.
So, I just wanted to give people a brief intro to what Chris does. He is, like I said, the community manager, and he will be here for us for about 30 minutes. So what is it like being the community manager for Ricochet?
Oh, it's good fun, man. Lots of planning going on right now because still in the early stages, relatively early stages of game development. And there isn't all that much info released about the game, but we've got lots of planning going on in the background. Obviously, the devs are actually working on the game too, and it's tons of fun being involved in a project this early on. The impact you can make, I suppose, is a little bit bigger than coming in on a project later on in its development cycle.
Do you enjoy the challenge?
For sure. I mean, definitely right now as a community manager, there isn't a whole lot to go on in terms of interacting with the community, but we're working on that, and we're going to definitely start blasting out more info and more discussion topics and whatnot moving forward in the relatively near future.
You were going to say something, Chicken?
No, just looking forward to hearing some more about the game whenever you guys can release that info, because as we all know, the developers are working on their games, but they also have their day jobs that they got to keep up with too, so it's kind of a fine line for them to be riding.
Exactly. I know that there are many people in the community itching to get more info and even get their hands on the game and start playing it and whatnot. And we're working towards that. We definitely want to get it into the gamers' hands as soon as possible. But I mean, creating a game does take time, so we're not quite there yet, but it's definitely getting closer to that stage.
Chris, how did you get started with Ricochet? What opened that opportunity?
I mean, I suppose way back when they first went public, I was quite intrigued by what they were doing. And at least in the kind of gaming circles that I'd been in previously, I had never seen modders try to band together and create their own game from scratch, or well, using an engine that's already there, but all the content and then whatever themselves. And these guys seem to be extremely ambitious with what they wanted to do. The goals they set themselves were pretty lofty. So, I mean, I basically wanted to get on board and support them as best I could. So, I eventually found myself in a position where I was able to do that, and I got in touch with them, and we got off to a pretty good start, and so far it's been going pretty well.
And when did this start? When did you join them?
I suppose at this stage, I mean, we started talking late last year, probably sometime in November, and got on board, yeah, about November, December time. So I haven't been there too long yet, but yeah, getting stuff done.
Well, it sounds like you're having a blast there.
Yeah, it's great fun, definitely.
So, as I understand, you also worked at EA. Was this the Battlefield Heroes division, or was this
Um,
Battlefield?
yeah, so I mean, I've got some experience with the Play for Free, EA's Play for Free branding over there, working on titles like Battlefield Play for Free and Lord of Ultima and Battleforge. And yeah, I've been working there for a little while too, and that's also good fun.
And what, if you don't mind me asking, what got you started there?
I mean, I've always been a fan of gaming communities in general. Um, Early on, I started to get involved with them and give back what they had given to me. Kind of just tried to help manage them as best I could on a voluntary basis. And then I suppose that developed, and I'd done that for a certain length of time, and I was looking for work, so I applied for a community representative role, and I got it. Yeah, that's pretty much that.
Kind of like, sounds like a dream job for you, no?
Oh, definitely. I was super excited when I got the job. Still am doing it today, so it's not a bad life to live.
Oh yeah, no doubt, and it's important. Yeah, absolutely. Similar for me, except not exactly gaming, but actually, yeah, I guess you could say gaming. When I was 14, I built my first computer. I'm 23 now, but I've always had a passion for IT, and one thing led to another, and now I work as a IT assistant. So it's great fun.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So, what exactly, what can you talk about that you've noticed about this Ricochet team that you have or haven't seen with other teams in terms of just what they do differently, their dedication, their perseverance?
Well, I mean, they do everything differently because they're not working, because they're doing this in their spare time. It's the whole approach to the development process and whatnot is completely different. There's a lot less kind of documenting what's going on and having long, drawn-out meetings about stuff. If something needs to get done, there'll be a few words spoken about it, and then it'll be done quickly. I mean, that's got its pros and cons, and it's definitely interesting to work in this kind of environment. And it's yeah, I mean, for a small team, and especially one that's working kind of in this on-off situation, I definitely think it's a good way to work, good way to move.
It's definitely more flexible, it sounds.
Yeah, um, for sure. If you were to try and bring that into a larger team, though, it may not work out so well. It's because the team is relatively small that it works.
Well, it's also, as my understanding, an indie has a lot more risk assessment. I mean, you really gotta have drive, and it's more costly. Well, I guess that's relative because
Failure is, yeah,
yes, yes. I
definitely
mean,
so.
you don't have a publisher backing you, and it's harder to get investment, as I understand.
Yep, no, that's definitely a concern. Um, and it's just, I suppose it comes, a lot of indie development comes down to just the individual drive of the team members and their passion and whatnot pulling through and getting the product on.
Okay, so your EA background was play for free, right? And you were the community manager?
Community representative. Yeah, there's a community team there, and I was one of the members of the team.
Okay. Can you explain a little bit about what your roles were? Like what did your job involve?
I mean, it's just general kind of. We cover all of the well, yeah, yeah, all of the communication between the developers and the community themselves. So we deal with posting the news items on the websites, talking to the players on the forums, um, doing all the social media channels and whatnot. And then we would kind of compile feedback reports and whatnot, and we'll send that off to the studios and see what they got to say, and then how we can best move forward with the title and whatnot. And yeah, I suppose that's a fair bit of what we do.
Cool. Chicken, did you have anything to add to either the Ricochet or EA part?
Well, I'm just kind of curious with your background with EA and the stuff that you've obviously learned by being in that sort of environment. Has there been any sort of knowledge that you've brought to Ricochet to sort of help with their development process?
Well, I mean, as a community manager, I wasn't overly involved with any development processes with any of the studios at EA, but I mean, I'm I'm hoping to affect some changes with Plastic Piranha and Ricochet.
So you are, so basically your job is to relay the feedback that you get from either forums, the community, be it through Twitter, Facebook, and relay that to the developers, correct?
That's definitely part of the job, yeah. I mean, we also have to get the information from the development studios out to the community in the first place as well.
Yeah, and I think we've seen with DICE how it can be frustrating because some people, I mean, a lot of people actually, they expect it, they expect perfection, and nothing wrong with that, but I mean, a game, it seems, is a lot more complex, and you can't always get it right the first time, no matter how good you are.
Well, you see, with that regard, I mean, especially if you're talking about DICE and you're talking about Battlefield 3, it's very difficult to get to a game, get any game, no matter how much money you're going to put into it, to a stage where it's completely bug-free. And as far as what they've done with Battlefield 3, I think it's definitely up there. It's one of the most polished games I've seen. Getting rid of all of the issues, all of the bugs, whatever. I mean, relatively, in comparison to a lot of other games, the bugs in Battlefield 3 are quite minor.
Well, I guess what I meant was in a large, like any game, like any AAA development title, it's so much more. It's much more labor intensive. There's more money. There's a lot more assets. It's incredibly more difficult to produce on that high of a level consistently, and I commend DICE for doing that, and other studios like Infinity Ward. My point was, it seems like it's hard to get that level of polish on day one, and when that comes, it's rare. But I mean, it's almost like you expect a game to have bugs. That's just how it is, because there's millions of lines of code. Especially for PCs, there's so many different configurations. I mean, I would think console games have more bugs because there's less hardware variations. What do you think? I mean, sorry, go on.
In general, yeah. I mean, it should be easier to make a more consistent game for consoles, for sure. But okay, with regards to games apparently needing more development on day one of the launch or whatever, I suppose it just gets to a stage where the game they've already pumped millions of dollars into the game, and they could spend another 2 or 3 months just polishing it off, getting these tiny niggling issues out of the way. But that would anger the community, because they want the game as soon as possible, and B, it would not be wouldn't work out cost-wise, as that's just more money being pumped in that is not making a hell of a lot of difference of change to the game.
Yeah, and I remember with a few other games like just back in August we had Red Orchestra, and that game got about a 2-week delay. Personally, I think we can all agree that it needed more polish, but it's one of those things that you had that much time to get there, and this is a special case with them. I mean, they could have easily and they should have, in my opinion, released it later, because even though it had promise, there was no there were so many issues on launch that I didn't see in the beta. And what I saw different with Battlefield 3 was that, sure, they had a similar process, but each and every process felt that much smoother. And I still see people complaining about netcode or whatever, but personally, I think this game, Battlefield 3, is much more polished than 2142 or even Battlefield 2. It's just, not only is it graphically appeasing, it's got better, in my opinion, it's got better netcode. I mean, it doesn't take 6 shots to hit someone most of the time. It only takes 2 to 3, you know what I'm saying?
Sure, I'd agree with you.
Anything to add to that, Chicken?
No, continue on.
Okay. So, whereabouts in Germany do you work? Do you work in the metropolitan Berlin?
Yep, pretty much quite close to the city center of Berlin.
And how many people are in your office roughly?
There are about, I suppose, 10 probably.
Oh wow, I was expecting you to say something like 100 or 200. Wow. So
No,
what
no.
is this office?
This is the community management office, so to speak, in Berlin. That yeah, it's basically the community team that operates out of there.
And they have an office just for you guys. Wow, that's pretty impressive. I would
It's
have
padded, I'm sure.
They don't let us out.
Well, I is it like, does it have multiple floors or is it just like one floor? Or
Just
is
one
it part
floor.
of us?
You don't
Oh,
need that
wow.
many floors for just 10 people.
It's a bunker.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just like, so they just keep all you guys all together and like that? That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it works.
So what impresses you the most about Ricochet so far?
I suppose one of the most impressive things to me was just that they had the gonads to go and actually attempt this in the first place. Um, it's such a massive undertaking to try and do do this that really I didn't think anyone would try it, and the fact that they have, yeah, I mean, fair play, and I really want to help them as much as I can.
Well, and it's also one thing to say you're going to do it, and another thing to spend a year and a half or 2 years on development. I mean, that takes a lot of balls, and it takes a lot of time and commitment, and obviously financial investment.
It certainly does, and I mean, everyone that's working on it has been putting so much time into it. I mean, their lives have changed because of it, and it's just, yeah, it's great to see what's the end result, so to speak. So it's starting to come together a little bit.
Are you behind the NDAs as much as some of the other people at DICE? And I know you work with Play for Free, which isn't directly associated with DICE, but are you still under heavy NDAs and all that kind of stuff on certain information?
I am indeed. Yep.
Oh, okay, so that's just part of the job, I guess.
Yeah, I mean,
He can't even
generally
tell you.
when you're working with any kind of information that's not public, you'll generally be put under an NDA. So yeah, I'd say it's not unusual at all.
Yeah, because I used to, well, back in the days when I used to whine about a lot more stuff, I used to be critical on people that was unnecessary critical for just hiding information, and now I get it. It's like, you can't give all the information out, then there would be no point in making a product. You got to build hype, you know?
Yep, to a certain extent. And also, I mean, if you may say that you're going to do something, if you're going if you're going to start talking about everything you want to do with the game right from the very get-go before a single line of code has been written, then you will end up in a situation where some of the things you've spoken about haven't made it into the game, so you look like an asshole.
Yeah, and let's face it, you'd be very lucky to implement every single feature of the game that you wanted, because it's just a massive undertaking. Like I said earlier, it's like some games obviously have more lines of code than others, but I mean, you got the engine, then you got to hire sound engineers, programmers, 3D level designers, model. There's so many different positions to make a game. It's almost like it's a huge undertaking.
It is indeed, and I mean, you can. The thing is that people on the teams will always have new ideas as they're making things and improving previous ideas as they go along. So, kind of planning out what you're going to do when is difficult, unless you don't want to veer from the course at all during that development process. And usually, it's a good idea to veer a little bit if you come across a good idea or a better way of doing something or something along those lines.
I'm sure a few of us would be curious on this question. Do you guys have, or can you talk if you have, can you talk about what you, like, do you guys have a schedule, weekly meetings, monthly meetings at Ricochet?
So there, in terms of meetings, we don't have formal meetings, I suppose, right now, right at this moment in time. We're constantly in contact with each other via like IM and email and whatnot, though. Um, Yeah, and I suppose IM is the best way to get things done. You can get things done almost instantly that way. So rather than waiting for a meeting to discuss something, you can just pop in there and start chatting.
That's cool. So there is a lot of communication then.
There definitely is, yeah.
And do you think they're gonna, or I guess I shouldn't ask this, but I'll ask it anyways. When do you think the game's gonna be coming out?
That's the question, isn't it? Well, we're aiming for this year. It should be well inside the end of the year, hopefully. Um, and yeah, you can already see that you're not going to get a specific answer from me on this.
Yeah.
So yeah, well inside the end of the year, I should say.
Do you a little bit? Oh, did you want to say something, Chicken?
I was going to say somewhere between Q1 and Valve.
Well, yeah, maybe not quite bad as Valve time, but yeah, we're working on doing it a little bit faster.
I guess my question was, oh, and I should have asked this earlier. What is your favorite game, Mr. Chris, of all time?
I suppose I can't give you a favorite one.
Top
I can
three.
give you a favorite two though. If we're talking about online games, it would
Yes.
be Battlefield 2142 and Call of Duty 4.
I love you. I love that game. I know I'm going to get a lot of flack for saying that, but I love 2142. That was my favorite game. I didn't like Battlefield 2 as much as I liked 2142.
Yeah, I mean it had more interesting aspects to it, I suppose. Nice little touches that made it more of a team game than BF2 was, in my opinion at least, and that's why I preferred.
I was more of a gunship whore in 2142, so I didn't like the other aspects much. But
So
I got my
yeah.
clan. I got my clan started from 2142. And we've expanded ever since. But that was a big game for me. I also liked StarCraft a lot. I don't know if you're an RTS guy.
No, I'm not really that much of one, to be honest.
Oh, that's a shame.
But
Oh, go on.
yeah, no, I was just gonna say you're a gunship guy. So in 2142, they basically had the jets and the choppers combined. So it was
Pretty
really,
much
really
overpowered.
yeah. Maneuverability was insane with those things.
I did not. Well, there was a trick you could do with the gunships that if you were like laying on your back when you were in flight, I'm sure you saw this all the time, and then you autocorrected it. Basically, made the missiles go off of you. It was a really fun tactic, but not everyone could do it.
I was more of a ground pounder, so I didn't actually come across that.
The Pilum?
No, I was pretty much medic the whole time.
Oh wow.
Yep.
I
That's
got
my
big.
rule.
Yeah, I got big into the engineer when I was I don't know. Oh, and did you get into co-op back in the day, or have you just really been into co-op as of the last, say, 2-3 years?
Yeah,
know-
just really over the last 2 years or so, I suppose.
I know I've gotten really into it because I usually play with Chicken and Karna and a few others when I'm gaming, and it's I know like the last, let's say, I mean I'm always in a joking manner obviously, but I'm always criticized for falling asleep in games, but I know that recently I've come accustomed to a lot of co-op games like Saints Row, what is that? Serious Sam, Portal, Left 4 Dead 2 recently. There's just so many to name. It's unbelievable. Like
Borderlands.
yes, how could I forget that?
Yeah, great game.
I mean, just the level of immersion, in, especially Portal 2 from the competitions. Like you can compete for the fastest times. It's amazing. That game
Yeah.
is. And the reason why I mentioned StarCraft earlier, not just because it's an RTS, but it's not about the RTS element for me because I know StarCraft 2 holds uh, the same field of play. It's like you can get into a game and you don't have to play the regular mode. What they call it is use map settings. It's kind of like playing a mod in a first-person shooter, but it's not because the map in StarCraft or StarCraft 2, it has what do you call it, scripts and placements. Like if you go to an area, it starts an event. And the nice thing about StarCraft is you could make a map. Anyone can make a map. It's not like you have to know any code, although you probably do in later versions of the games as they got more complex. But you can just place these areas and script them in such a way that it makes a new kind of game. And that's what I liked about it. You're always going to have that classic StarCraft feel, but that's how Defense of the Ancients, Dota, which is coming from Valve, Dota 2 that is, that's how Dota got started. It was just a mod that became really popular.
Mm-hmm.
And go on.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say it's just I don't think we're gonna probably see first person shooters get to that level again, but obviously no one can ignore the StarCraft esports community and the modding community. That community is huge because it's so much easier to do it than in a first person shooter.
Yeah, well, I mean, isn't there a mod coming out for StarCraft 2? I think it's World of StarCraft or something. I mean, they're trying to make an MMO StarCraft game in the StarCraft
I
engine or
think
whatever.
they were doing that, and then I thought that the Blizzard went after them, but then they realized it was actually good. I don't know if it was a conflict of interest, but I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think, are they still doing it?
Yeah, I think Blizzard kind of tried to stop them, or well, at least they wanted to talk to them about it or whatever, and now I think they're going ahead with it again.
Well, that's cool. Yeah, I mean, one of the things I like about Blizzard is their commitment to uh, fun games. Obviously, I mean, if not everyone's into StarCraft or World of Warcraft or Diablo, but when you're into those kind of games, even if they're so they're fun, they're very polished, and you can play them for hours on end. I mean, I suppose you could say that about any game that's fun, right? But like Infinity Ward, like Dice, Blizzard is another great company in my book, and I hope that Ricochet releases the release for Ricochet is good. I hope they get a lot of sales from it.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of modding for first-person shooters, we're definitely going to be pushing that with Ricochet and doing everything we can to promote community efforts and whatnot, and basically make sure that all of the awesome stuff that's going on in the community is reaches as wide an audience as possible.
Any things to say in that regard, Chicken, about just Ricochet in general?
Uh, Not really. It's just it's a good idea for a smaller dev team working on a game to sort of promote openness with their game in terms of modding. It'll help people gain interest in the game, and it'll give it some legs in terms of longevity. But I really hope that everything goes well for them. I hope they use this as a stepping stone to move on to future projects, and hope it just gets better from here.
Me
Absolutely.
too.
Yeah. Do you guys have an office, or do you just what do you
No,
just
no,
work?
it's everyone's working from their home.
Oh, I'd love to do that. Fortunately, I'm not. Well, I guess I could work on my own projects, but it just for me at least, when I go into an office, I feel like I have an obligation, like a direction. That's just me. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like it motivates me when I'm in the office because I know I'm going to get work done. Whereas if I'm at home, I just like, I might not want to do this now.
Yeah, but I mean, I think everyone on the team is pretty driven at the moment, and I mean, an office isn't really realistic right now because
Oh yeah, it's atrociously
this
expensive.
is like the second job for everyone. Everyone has a day job that they do, so
Yeah.
this is something that they're doing in their spare time.
Absolutely, it's an like we said, it's a massive undertaking, but the fact that they're actually doing it is pretty impressive. But
Yeah, I mean, hopefully we get to the stage where we have an office and everyone's employed full time at the Ricochet. That'd be awesome.
yeah, I just are you guys? I know at one point there was some discussion of whether to make it free or paid, but it's definitely going paid, like the actual end product.
I don't know if it's been announced yet or if the final decision has even been made, but I would say that going the free-to-play route requires a hell of a lot of infrastructure. That is really quite difficult for a small team like this to set up. So that probably gives a good indication as to whether or not that's going to happen.
Yeah, well, it is what it is, right?
Yeah, and yeah, that's what I'll say for now.
Any final words or last shout-outs?
I'd just like to say thanks to everyone in all of the communities that I deal with for helping out and supporting what we do, and I'm sure that 2012 is going to be a great year. I look forward to whatever we have coming out in the not too distant future.
I'm also looking forward to playing Ricochet myself. I hope they do well with their product, and I hope it turns out to be lots of fun for all of us. I'd like to thank all my guests and panelists. Thank you, Chicken.
Hey, no problem.
Thank you, as always, Rob.
Yeah, sorry for talking so much.
No problem. Thank you, Chris.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
And thank you to everyone in IRC.
So anyway, we're between banks right now. Just make those checks out to cash. Cave Johnson, we're done here.